No? Okay. So how long do you need? Hello, people. Listen, I've got to keep it down a bit. See that window there? I know most of you know this. Behind that is the bedroom. Now, my missus is working at the gym again. She's a gym instructor. Keeps her fit. Doesn't earn a lot of money, though, because getting there and back and eating like out every day. But, you know, she loves it. It makes it good for her. And it's good for her to work, you know, learning stuff. She's got a Facebook channel and she's learning all about that. Lovely. But if this stream's 2 hours, which it probably won't be, I'm going to respond to one video, and it's one in the Jason Arday story that you may not have seen. I mean, this story has blown up and broken the internet, like expected, but it's usually a 24-hour news cycle. That's how we talk, right? But this is just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And I put the title, Jason Arday isn't the problem, DEI is. But since then, I've changed it. I'd probably say the problem isn't Jason Arday. The problem is multiculturalism, of which DEI is a small and unpleasant, unworkable, unmeritoric, unmeteoric. That'll do. Some Freudian slips are good. Unmetacratic. Well, I think somewhere between those words, you know what I mean. That's Derrida's trace. I'll slide out of that one. That you need to look into Derrida's trace. But listen, I've had a win against the man, and also I owe a massive thank you to a lot of scrubs. You lot. Right, I'm going to keep this brief. I've already instructed Bakar, if possible, tell me when I've gabbed on about it too much. Last time I streamed, I promoted my novel. You can find it on Amazon. You can read the many reviews, the 4.8 or 9 stars, the endorsements and everything. I'd really like you to buy that. But I found out the only way, right, on Amazon, you put your title in when you put in your book in, then it says subtitle optional. And then there's a few other bits. Then you get your metadata, 7 lines, and they can be things that describe the book. So 1980s working class coming of age story. That would be one. And another one might be something like hilarious and dark childhood story. You get the idea, right? But, you know, that book took a lot of work, as you'd imagine. And I do a lot of guerrilla marketing. I've also got you lovely people here. I've got my Substack as well. And but things weren't happening as I'd assume they should have done. You know, when you have massive sales sort of spikes, Amazon gives you more visibility. More visibility usually means more sales, etc., etc. And, you know, I never expected it to, you know, be 50 Shades of Grey or Harry Potter or something. No, of course not. The big 5 publishing houses that own all the other publishing houses that have ruined literature, essentially, in the 21st century. Yeah, it's funny. Otherwise, I'll cry. They've made sure of that. But it turns out, although all that metadata doesn't really count for much, if anything. And I proved this to myself by watching patterns, doing a lot of research. I even got algorithms knocked up using Claude, Grok, and GPT. If you're using those AI models, check with another AI model all the time. It's always good to get another one. Because you know that bit at the bottom where it says it does make mistakes? It does make mistakes, so check them. And certain patterns weren't happening. And there's an element of, anyway, forget all that. I was typing in sentences, like human search terms, that included like 10 of my keywords. Like Amazon will mix and match them. So if one of yours is 1980s working class novel, and another of your 7 phrases is coming of age, dark and hilarious. And if someone searches coming of age 1980s, Amazon will mix your two. Say, oh, it says 1980s, it says coming of age, show your book. So I thought, what's actually happening here? Because this isn't right in any way. I even spent £8 testing it. There's a way you can test it. And I typed in 1980s, hilarious, coming of age, diary style novel. Nothing. No sign of mine. Even when I got to page 6, nothing. The top, you got a lot of sponsored ones, and then there was even things on there like how it used to be, the 1950s, and Grandma Perkins, and I'm like, how do you get that before my novel? And then I'd type in everything, all my keywords, 1980s a hilarious and dark 1980s coming of age journal style British literary fiction novel, right? All of them are keywords of mine, not a peep. What I found out, the only way you could find my novel on Amazon is you typed in love in the time of nudie mags. Right? So obviously I'm gutted because I've missed my chance. Well, I haven't. I mean, this is a long-term project anyway. It has to be. I need a back catalogue, 3 or 4 more novels. I've got a new one coming out in November, if I'm not dead. The Iconoclast had a go at me for keep talking about death in the last stream. Not had a go at me, but he said, are you dying? Because you talk about death a lot. Apologies, people. I'm just not well and I'm recovering. But I work too hard. I'm now a professional writer, which is another way of saying I'm very busy, unemployed person. Anyway, I looked further into it. The title of your novel has quite a, it's all proprietary. Amazon don't, that word proprietary, it really drills into the 3 or 4 speaking issues I have that usually I can hide quite well. So I'll say it again for your own pleasure. It's proprietary. But people have tested this because it's been going on for years. So they reckon the title and the subtitle make up about 80% of the search. And your keywords make up about, this is what different people have said, after years of testing it. And your keywords are sort of things, other things. There's other things that take up the 10%, like sales. Like if a novel sells 100,000 on a day, Amazon are just going to put that front and center every day, regardless of keywords and anything. But that optional subtitle is so strong for search, so strong. So I thought, well, I haven't got a subtitle. My book never had a subtitle. There's no room for it after my Will self-endorsement. And I didn't want one anyway. I said, yeah, go on, Picard. Packer's not a reader. Loved it. Couldn't put it down. And I didn't want one either. It's unclean. It's called Love in the Time of Nudie Mags. And then I saw, by luck, doing all these tests, I saw a novel called, I will get onto the show and you're going to love this show. I think you won't have seen, I'm only going to respond to one clip. It's a very short clip, a few minutes, but I think you'll love it. There was a novel called something like The Purple Purse. And it said it on the cover, The Purple Purse, nothing else on the cover. But in the listing, it said The Purple Purse, a darkly comic, and it had a subtitle. And I thought, there's no subtitle on that. And I'd look at the back. And I thought, hang on a minute. I'm doing some searches. And of course, it's just clear as day. There's novels called things like The Twilight Dawn. Right, no one's searching for The Twilight Dawn. They might search for Twilight because obviously that's a very popular brand. But then a horror, a literary fiction horror novel of obsession, lust, an older male, younger woman. That's not a subtitle to a book. That's SEO. That's search engine optimization, just 100%. So I go and have a look at the I'm going to have a look at the rules about this, right? I go and have a look at the rules about this because I need to get a subtitle in there. I've missed the boat really with launch. Update your book titles. Right, hang on. I'll keep this clean. I'll keep this quick. What book details can be changed after publishing? See subtitle there? No. Paperback and hardcover Kindle, you cannot change your subtitle. There's a little star there. What that star says is that it can be updated within 72 hours of your initial publication. After that, after it's no longer in review, this is the important bit. After 72 hours, these fields are fully locked. The only way you can do anything about it is to release a new edition of your book, change the ISBN, change the ASIN, lose all your reviews, lose all your rankings, and start again. And I was desperately depressed. I rarely get depressed. But I just thought, the amount of work I've done promoting that, my guerrilla marketing techniques, it's not a lot of work, but it's regular. It can get frustrating. I'm going to write a Substack about it to help out other indie writers. I just put out my first paid piece, 7,000 words, and I've only got about 10 paid subs. And it's like, that's hard to know, 7,000 words, took 3 weeks to write, was late. But I also understand an inch is, what is the saying? A meter is the start of a mile or something. So I talked to someone at Amazon. I say, yeah, but listen, you didn't say the subtitle is important. You said it was optional. My book's fucked. You can't find it unless you already know it. And he was like, yeah, it's bad, isn't it? Sorry, mate. He said, what I'd suggest is releasing a new edition and starting again. I was like, what? And lose all my reviews and my rankings? He said, you can still put in your endorsements, but just say you have to say, read these endorsements from a previous edition. Readers don't like that sort of stuff because they're like, what, from a different book? And then am I going to start saying, well, the reason I had to do a new edition is because I forgot to put, no, all this stuff just puts people off. And I said, come on, mate, help us out. He said, you can't do it. Sat there for about 4 hours, gutted, talked to someone else. And you have to jump through hoops, several, to get to talk to someone at Amazon. Talk to someone else. Nah, it's not possible. After 72 hours, that data is locked in. If you want to change your title, your subtitle, you need a new edition. There's nothing you can do about it. They sent me the link to that page I just showed you. They're the rules. Well, if that is the case, have a look at this. Oh dear. Don't worry about that bit where it says this title is not currently blah, blah, blah. Now, you can't get it done on your paperback, but when you open it, even if it comes up on Kindle, when you click it, you're offered different formats anyway. And I spent a good 4 hours just enjoying watching my novel come up in searches and seeing how little I could type. I think I got it down to 1980s British hilarious, and it was like 3rd or something. Ideally, it would have been like this from launch, and it would have helped, and then it got into a feedback loop. But essentially, it means that most of my sales, if not all, have come from my guerrilla marketing, my Substack, and my YouTube. So bless you all. Because if it hadn't have got 71, this is only the UK page, 71 reviews and 4.8 average, I would have been very unhappy. So look, I can't believe I got it sorted. So it's almost, it's like a second wind. Look at it, look at that. Ooh, you can't do it. No? Well, you watch. And I'll tell you one more thing. This is why I'm just buzzing. I said to ChatGPT, I said, I think there's a way. And I told it, And it said, here's the risk. If you do that, Amazon might recognize it as a different product to your paperback. And then you'll lose all your reviews, all your previous sales that Amazon knows about, etc., etc. So if that's a risk you're willing to take, and I thought, well, I might as well, because no one can see the fucking thing anyway. Bosh. I tell you what, you never see a knackered old junkie running around a room in Cambodia as fast as me, like it was amazing. So yeah, a win. The moral of that story is, can you buy my novel? That would really help me. Right, let's get into this. So I prepared weirdly for my channel. First of all, how are you, Picard?
I'm very well, thanks, Chris. I'm off next week, so I've got a few days left of work, and then I've got a week off. So
you're on holiday next week?
Yeah, I'm sliding into holiday mode.
Kids at school next week?
No, he's off. We're going karting in Lincoln and then karting at Ancaster, I think.
And you get in that car and get shaken to pieces?
No, I'm not going to do it.
Because that's what happened last time, wasn't it?
Yeah, I did it about a year. I did it about a year ago, and I was in for 2 days.
I was about to say, you're still feeling it.
Broke me.
Anyway, I have written a little introduction. I mean, if you don't know anyway, but it's nice to go through these because the video I'm going to show you is gold. It's gold. Some of you will have seen it because the story is brilliant, but let's just go through some of this madness. Right, hang on. Let me just find it. Hang on. So Arday was appointed professor. To be a professor, you do a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, a doctorate, also known as a PhD. PhD stands, it's a Greek, I think, might be Latin. Philosopher doctor, because doctor, the original meaning was someone learned or has wisdom, and philosophy meant a love of wisdom. That's the original meaning of philosophy, a love of wisdom, a love of knowledge, you could say. So PhD essentially means, a learned, a wise person of knowledge. And it's the top of the tree. You don't really get higher. Well, you don't. There's no institutional rank. I mean, if there is, for someone like me who spent 7, maybe 8 years in academia, I know I don't show, it's so obscure, I've never heard of it. And when you're a professor, you don't just walk around, like with a feather sticking out your big old hat, and professing things. You've actually got work to do. You are the pinnacle in your field. And Cambridge is was the pinnacle of academic institutions. One of a world-renowned, elitist, thankfully, as it should be, institution of excellence that filtered people out all the way. It got to the point, okay, you need straight A's in your GCSEs, you need straight A's at A level, but then too many people were doing that because the world went mad and started lowering the bar. Can't imagine why. Maybe changes in demographics. There could be all manner of reasons. I'm just giving you one. I don't know. So then it's straight A's, and then it was becoming a sergeant in the local Sea Scouts, spending a year out in Peru helping the mountain people, teaching them how to use computers or whatever. Seriously, you can't rock up at Cambridge or Oxford or any of the decent universities, really. Or that's not fair. The top universities with just good grades. You need to show that you've separated yourself from the lumpen proletariat as much as possible. oh, I've also got this award for this. I've already got a couple of essays published in academic journals in my field. I've studied with so you know, that's what institutions of academic excellence are for. And a healthy society wants that. You want to filter out everyone so you've got the best. And a professor at a university continues research in their field. To get a bachelor's degree, you need to show a general understanding of the area or the field of study. And you need to show an understanding of the general field. So to get a degree in human biology, you need to show that you've got a general understanding of human biology. To get a master's degree, you need to show an understanding, a deeper understanding of the field, but a specific area in the field. So not just human biology, it might be the politics of human biology, the economics of human biology, the human biology of birth anomalies or whatever. To get a doctorate, a philosophy doctor, a PhD, you need to contribute to the field. You need to have written a paper at the end of your doctorate, your dissertation, that the field recognises, your peers, all the top bods at other universities and academic journals are like, whoa, this is new. I've taken other ideas, I've looked at them, I've found the contradictions, I've resolved contradictions dialectically, I found a new idea. You know, nothing comes out of nowhere. You have to take what you've been given or inherited and work with them to move them onwards. But your job at that university carries on. You keep doing that. You're at the summit of your area, and for that privilege, the university pays you. They pay you. You get a lovely house, a lovely room in Cambridge University. You know, what a dream. What a dream. I'd love to have gone to Cambridge. I'm just not that sort of person. But I would have loved to have studied at Cambridge. You know, imagine going into a seminar and having Derrida teach you Derrida. I mean, I had Julia Kristeva, which will mean very little to most of you, but I had a lecturess about Julia Kristeva. And it was funny because she's sort of feminist adjacent, but in the sort of Camille Paglia kind of feminism, you know, just not feminism really. And all the Green Air Brigade turned up to this lecture, you know, in their horrible sort of clothes and their intentional lack of femininity. Kristeva walks in a fur coat, stilettos and big red lips. She's about 65. I was like, fucking brilliant. They were like, oh, it was and even what she said, none of them liked. Yeah, there were complaints made. What a woman, like one of the, you know, she used to knock about with Derrida and Lacan. She was in a group called Tel Quel, which is a Nietzschean term, Tel Quel, eternal recurrence. You know, these are pinnacles of the field. Anyway, as a professor, you're contributing new material and discoveries to your field. You're also teaching students, but more importantly, you're also mentoring students. Like on my MA, I had a doctor, a professor, who I'd go to with my work. And it was meant to be for like an hour, but we'd sit there for like 4 or 5 hours because she was interested and we'd argue about it. And she was a bit jealous that on my bachelor's I was taught by a bloke called Max Patterson, who's world-renowned Adorno, a professor on the work of Theodore Adorno. And that was what her area of research was, very much Adorno adjacent. Yeah, I've learned a new word. Now, picture this. you've got your straight A's. You went to Peru. You've done all this. You got into. Imagine that letter coming through. Imagine being a working class person, not someone who expected this, like your Eton boys and that, but like we would like after your interview and looking at your work, we would like to offer you a place on the Cambridge undergraduate course in human biology. Wow, what a day! Best day of your life. Like amazing. Mum, Dad, you know. You're sort of 18, 19 years old. Oh, your life now is set on a tangent where success is, you know, you've got to fuck it up considerably. Because if you get your BA, your MA, your PhD, any of them at Cambridge back in the day, that meant a lot. Meant a lot. You were filtered through and ended up at one of the finest, the elites of people who think in your field. And you turn up with your research that you're spending all your nights on while all the people you grew up with are out on the piss, taking acid, doing ecstasy, banging birds or banging blokes, you know, doing what young people do, but not you. You're in working because that's the choices you've made and the goals you want to achieve. And you've done it. Imagine when you got that, and you know, when you get that bit of paper, it's like, only I can fuck this up now. That's what you'd assume, innit? Only I can ruin this now. If I don't apply myself, if I don't work, if I'm not open to new ideas, if I'm not open to challenging and being challenged, but I'm in. And then you sit down with Jason Arday, and he's a moron. And I'm sorry, and as I'm sure many of you have seen him talking, he's not very bright. He's not clever. There's even a part of me that thinks he may have just got caught in the sort of tsunami. You know, like when you're a kid and you've come home an hour late and your mum and dad are like, where the fuck have you been? We've been worried. And you go, oh, we were hiding in the car park, but there was this bloke there and we were scared that, you know, and your mum and dad ain't buying it. So you add another layer on. And he had a knife and they're not buying it. And so, you know, you're like 8 or something. So you add another layer on. And you know, John said that he was a PDF file, you know, and you just keep, because you're a child, you're not too bright, you're learning how the world works, and you're just letting the madness of a situation carry you along. You've certainly got a part to play, but you're being sort of over-determined by emotion, etc. There's almost a part of me that thinks that this bloke didn't even know, not the consequences of what he was doing, what those consequences mean. Now, if you don't know anything about this, I'll just run through this little summary so you know. So he was appointed as a professor of sociology. Oh, actually, just so that everything I just said doesn't make sense. Apparently, students are looking at class action lawsuits against Cambridge University because you don't get that time back. If he was your professor for your dissertation and he was your professor for your lectures, your seminars on your subject, your 3 years at Cambridge mean nothing because he's an idiot.
You've had a super chat, Chris.
All right, I'll deal with that in a minute. Thank you, Packer. But he's not very bright, and you can't get that back. You might have started the college at 19. You're now 22. What are you going to do? Do another bachelor's? But you might not get onto a master's degree because you're just not at a high enough level. Oh, I went to Cambridge. Oh, great. Can we have a look at your dissertation? Whew, this isn't very good because you didn't have a teacher that knew what he was talking about. Students at Cambridge have said he used to sit on the desk, not on the chair, or walk around, sit on the desk in the lotus position, just telling people stories of racism that he'd experienced in his life. I'd be sitting there thinking, this has all gone very wrong. What is happening? And apparently plenty of people complain. So think about the students, think about those people whose lives will never be the same, who done everything that was required to become a student at Cambridge and had it taken away by them, by a liar, a fantasist, some kind of Munchausen character, and the faculty and the institution. Because when you see the list of absolute bullshit, it's not a CV, it's a sports bag of red flags. You open it up and they're already animated, like they're solar powered. They're all like that. You're like, oh, hang on a minute. we might have to look further. But what they've done was look less. So he was appointed Professor of Sociology of Education in 2023 and widely celebrated as the youngest black professor. Why does that mean anything? Again, in a healthy society, his age and his skin colour. So, don't care. His public story was extraordinary. He said that he was autistic and still is. I mean, you know what my thoughts are about mental illness. Remind me to tell you about Channel 4 at the end of this, because there's a big one there. He was mute. He didn't talk until he was 11. He couldn't read or write until he was 18. And although he did get a couple of GCSEs, which had, although one of them was physical education, you still have to do a written part of that. Part of getting your A level or GCSE in the two, he done had a written element. If you can't read or write, you can't, no, that doesn't add up. He played professional football for Crystal Palace. They've denied that. There's a Premier League team, like it might not have been back then, but did you really? He was a professional snooker player, and it's just like apparently he ran 600 miles in 6 days, 100 miles a day. That puts him in something like the top 0.01 of ultra marathon runners. But the last 2 days or something like that, he had a broken leg, but carried on. Run another 200 miles with a broken leg. Okay, there's that. Now, this is where it gets interesting. He's also been accused of plagiarism, which is copying people. A lot of his work has been located in other people's dissertations. All PhDs are published, by the way, the likes of Routledge or whatever. It's considered that if you've gone through all those filters and jumped through all those hoops, your doctoral thesis is worth publishing because you've contributed to the field. So he just found other people who'd done it. And it's not like a little bit like it. It's almost word for word, huge chunks, sometimes page after page. And you can find all this online. What else? We done 300 miles in 3 days. That was another one. 30 marathons in 35 days. He went to Brazil. There's a charity called something like the Brazilian Well Project, and it's a charity that helps people who live in isolated places in like the Brazilian rainforest or whatever, dig wells to get fresh, clean water or whatever. But they don't send people out there. It's a help you to help yourself style charity. They send them a bit of money. They send them information, education. He said he went out there, helped them dig a well. They said he didn't. They said, no, that didn't happen. Everything is just absurd. It's called WaterAid, that company. And they said, they didn't even have to look. They said, we don't send volunteers over there. It's helping them to help themselves things. He also said he had loads of honorary doctorates from other universities that none of them have come to light. He published another book about his mutism and his autism and not being able to read or write, which is weird for someone who can't read or write. Sorry, that's poor, but you get the point. After a few days of this, and it even took over bricks and minifigs, and that shows you the strength of this story. He resigned, and now you've got two sides. You've got the people who are saying this is DEI, this is what happens. It blinds people. We know the institutions are leftist. Of course they are. 95% of the people there are leftists. And I don't mean on the left, I mean leftists. And one geezer outed him and he got shunted out of the university with accusations of racism. But the important bloke is here somewhere, Nathan Cosmon or something. Hang on, I've got it here. Where is it? Nathan Cofnas. Right, Nathan Cofnas. That's all I needed at that page. Nathan Cofnas. Nathan Cofnas. He's the bloke who brought it all up again recently, which has caused all this furore, okay? And he's a race realist. To give you an example of what that is, what's his name? Jared Taylor is a race realist. Essentially, if you believe that differences in IQ can be down in part to ethnicity and race, you're a race realist. And Nathan Cofnas wrote a Substack piece about race realism, and they didn't like that. And he's the bloke who's kind of brought all this up. Now, let's just because it might be and likely is God's cosmic bollock, long time no say. Say and see. Thanks for the air and center. I literally just ordered your book off Amazon. You, my friend, and given me a tenner. I don't want to ruin your excellence here. I had a geezer subscribe to my Substack for a year. He's an executive producer. He gets his name at the bottom of every story. And then he threw 100 quid in my buy me a coffee. And you just, people, honestly, it's mind blowing. Thank you. And it's nice to see you here. Literally just ordered your book off Amazon. Good to know you're not dead. No, I'm not dead. I am a little bit concerned something's going on. I'm going to give it a couple more months, but something's not right. But I'm not dead. I got a lot of fight in me as well. I've certainly got to get this next novel out. You can't die halfway through. Well, 6/8 through a magnum opus. You had me worried for a minute. Keep it up. I do enjoy your insights on life and business. Thank you, mate. Have you been lurking? Because I haven't seen you commenting for a while, but much appreciated. Enjoy the book. Leave a review on Amazon helps, but it's I'm asking for a lot for someone who's already done two amazing things. Machano Kaprasha Tutu. God's cosmic bollock, people. What have we got to say to him, Picard?
Hoyt.
Parker mutes his mic. He's not spasticated, and he's processing. He's not like a large language model thinking. Okay. Oh, there's some OGs in the chat. I haven't been looking because I've been reading those things. Right, people. Now, some of you will have heard this, but I think there's a chance that a lot of you won't have, because just the amount of content about Jason Arday. So some of you are going to be excited, and some of you are going to be, I knew it was that. But I think it will be a high percentage you haven't. Someone dug up Jason Arday talking on LBC to James O'Brien. James O'Brien, unbearable person. Just no. He's since released a video. It's called something like "I'm a mug," and everyone was like, "Yeah, we know. We've known that a long time." But you listen. I will interrupt the story, but it's about a 3-minute conversation. Well, not even a conversation. It's like a monologue from Jason Arday telling James O'Brien, like, he almost exalts him. Like, it's like he wants statues of him. It's incredible. And like I was explaining earlier about a kid, when they just keep, they get lost in the sort of fantasy of it, and the madness of it just escalates and escalates. He starts off by, you'll hear it, but I want you to not understand, because obviously you will. But for me, the interesting bit is the escalation, because this is what children do. That's why it's important. Children do this. They start off with a seed of an idea, and children should do this, because that's that sense of fantasy, and just realizing that you can create and you can add and add and add. And me and my mates, we used to draw comics when we were kids. We had fucking hundreds of them. I'm so gutted I threw them away. I'd love to see them now. We were like 8 and 9, and they'd have speech bubbles and all that, and some of them we'd cut out from the old Panini football stickers. You get the occasional gold or silver one. We'd cut bits out of them, like if there were robots in a drawing, and put them as their robot arm and that. But you start off with just a couple of people, and by the end of the story, it's because you understand this sense of escalation. So, like I said, I likely will interrupt it, but rarely. This isn't typical. If you might know the channel, she's very popular. She's got 237,000 subs. It's called Resigned. I've used. I don't know if it's just a one-person podcast, but the woman here responding is excellent. Look at her face, because her face. It was what I was feeling when I was listening. Oh, it would appear we have another donation or a membership call. That's interesting. Brad dropped £2. Jason and the Arday Nors. Go on. You're wasted. You're wasted on Substack. Don't forget, Brad's got a Substack, people. Science fiction mainly. If you like it, check it out. Hello, Nate. Bruno. Hello, Ams. Good to see you. No way is Plastic African on the firm. Look at that. Yeah, exactly that. Well, it's gone, hasn't it? You can't. There was a doctor recently who's been struck off. He got his medical certificate in Cairo, and he was practicing surgery in England. And he was doing this surgery on someone, and he looped their stomach to their bowels. So the outpipe, which usually goes down the toilet, was going back into his stomach. Now, I'm not a surgeon. I'd give it a go if I had to in a war situation. That sounds like I want to. but surely that ain't an easy mistake to make, is it? Oh, hang on, I'll just make it a loop. I mean, in many ways, you'd never have to eat again, would you? Just keep consuming the. It's like the human centipede in one person, the human monopede. It's just a human. But anyway, luckily they found that out. But he's been struck off. But let me tell you something about that. And that's why I said right at the beginning that this isn't about DEI. This is about multiculturalism. This is about not having skin in the game. And it's an unfortunate word, skin, in that idiom. But when you feel like you're part of a community, And when communities feel like they're part of a nation, people do pay their taxes. People do want their streets clean. People will not blag it. Not as, there'll be some, of course. I'm not pretending, England was this perfect sort of panacea of exceptional trust, but it was a high trust society, and different religious, ethnic, cultural, and historic beliefs that ruptures any sense of coherence. And it's like, no, fuck it, I'll just blag it. I'm here for me. I haven't come halfway around the world to play by the rules. I've come halfway around the world to get as much money out of this stupid country as I can, because they seem to be offering it, to send back to my family, where I've got skin in the game. My country. That's why the UK loses billions every year. What are they called? Remissions? No. Someone in the chat will know, Pags or someone. Hello, Jed. Good to see you, mate. I like your little Freudian slip there, Jed. Sean Patrick's on the firm as well. Incredible. Hello, Ams. Yeah. Really weird, right? He would have had to have cut a new hole. Dude, got to go somewhere, innit? Remittances, thank you, everyone. If your governance is gonna play that game, that suicidal empathy is on kerosene. Yeah, of course. I'm not surprised in the least. I don't. If you're skint and you can't feed your kids, and someone says that, oi, if you can get to England, no shit, they're going to give you an house, a phone, feed you a car, pretend you're mental as well, then you don't have to work ever. And then you can there's all these other ways of just getting money, and you can work, just don't tell them. And let me tell you something else, people. Good to see you, Plastic. Anyway, I hope you're well. I know for a fact, now I don't want to say too much for obvious reasons, but I know for a fact that in certain countries that aren't very rich, right, you can buy almost anything, really. You can, I doubt this comes as a surprise to you. Hello, Bill. Nice to see you, Billy Blogs. You can go into a medical university, do the first term, and then just say to the dean, say, look, I'm going to England. I want to work as a GP, as a general practitioner. And the dean will look at you like. And then when you put a couple of grand on the table, you'll have that certificate the following day. And if anyone were to contact him, he'd go, yeah, he studied here for 8 years, yeah. Because that if you can offer someone a year's wages just to sign them off and have them disappear around the other side of the world, a lot of people will and have. I think I don't quote me on the number, but I read an article that something like the number was atrocious, like 73 of people who are charged with sexual offences against female patients in the NHS were not native to the country. 73%, something like that. Let's say it was 50%. Looking at the per capita, it's just, and it's a question of cohesion. It's a question of heterogeneity. So let's listen to Jason talking to James O'Brien, shall we? This is something else. I just want to credit the channel again. It's called Reasoned. I have used them before to react to, and The presenter's brilliant. She's just. I mean, there's only a picture of him, so she's quite worth a watch actually, because she's just mind blown. So James O'Brien from LBC, and Professor, the top of his game at the top university in the world, the height, the pinnacle of academia, right? Check it. If there's any sound problems, let me know. Hello, Vincent. Hello, Alfie. Here we go. And this is all I'm going to show you because you've seen the rest. Check it.
This story just keeps on getting better.
Well, I'm just going to leave it there. Any echoes? And is it loud enough? Is it all good? Good to you, Picard?
Good for me.
Everyone in the chat, are we all right with that? Hello, Marzipan. I was thinking about you today because this was nearly going to be a call-in. And I thought, if it's a call-in, at least we'll get to see Ian. But in fairness, it ain't a call-in, and there you are. He says, it's fucking madness. Illiteracy, low IQ, lying and deceit is celebrated by these fucking idiots. Yeah, and it's not one or two people. It's an institution. How it's happened is going to, Cambridge have launched another inquiry, but I don't know what they're going to do about it. In fairness, you're going to nice 142 and hello, mate. Good to see you. Hope you're well. I know I've still got an email of yours sitting in my email. Every time I see it, I'm like, oh fuck, man, I've got to sort that out. Come on in. I only say it. You know why I say it. Hello, Wolfie. Good to see you. Hello, Baz. Hello, Hams. Right. Hello, always num. How are you, son? Good to see thee. That geezer there, always num, that's Mark from Loving the Time and Nudie Mags. Right, check him. Remember, the top rank of the top university in the world, talking to James O'Brien of LBC.
Jason Arday, the youngest black professor at Cambridge, who has now quit after the Telegraph revealed his lies and his alleged plagiarism.
Well, a race realist on Substack, really, but obviously the Telegraph's got a little bit more clout, but it's easier to go that route than the race realist route. I bet fucking YouTube headquarters is lit up like a Christmas tree because I said race realism 4 times. How dare you ask questions? That's it. What kind of world? I was talking to my brother earlier about this situation and how I used to think we'd look back at this period and be like, yeah, man, that the world, they were hopped up on Kool-Aid and they went there. Excuse me. I don't think we come back from this. I'm so pessimistic about it at the moment. I'm sorry to drop a black pill. If I had a child now, if I had a teenager, which unfortunately I don't, I'd say, get out of England. I'm going to do that video. The next stream I do is going to be that. Get out. I know that's not a popular position to take, but it will be a call-in, and it's deliberately provocative as well. But that's what I'd say to my kids. I'd say go somewhere else. It's too dangerous. You're white, and you're going to be a minority, and they're not going to be very nice to you because they already ain't. Hashtag not all. Here we go again.
Was about to be investigated by Cambridge, and suddenly he quit. The Telegraph also found out that he'd lied about.
If I didn't make that clear, Arday's quit Cambridge, and he says it's not this. Oh no, his lawyers, and I think it's Carter Wright. Now, even no one little tiny channel me has got to be careful here because Carter Wright have a very, they're like, allegedly, according to people who know a lot more about this stuff than me, Cartwright are your go-to lawfare lawyers. Their modus operandi is money and hassle. They will allegedly, it's just lawfare. You won't get out alive. And they've said that his resignation is not, I think they've said, allegedly, please come on, Cartwright, I haven't got any fucking money to give you. What do you expect me to give you? God's cosmic bollocks tenner? I've got to pay tax on that and YouTube tax. If you use that QR code or the buy me a coffee link at the bottom of the chat, say in the chat and I will recognise that donation on the screen because I think it's fair. And I'll send you a minute video later. Anyway, so it's not an admission of guilt that he's resigned. It is though, isn't it?
His charity work, claiming he raised millions and millions of pounds by himself for charity. He lied about how long it took him to do some big running thing that he raised money for charity from, saying, it actually took 12 days, even though when he was raising money, he said it only took a few days. We also find out that he claimed in his application to Cambridge that he'd written a book. Turns out this book doesn't exist. It's a mystical book made out of nowhere. But folks, today we are finding out that this man's hero, this explains a lot, this man's hero.
That's it, by the way, people. It's not Cartwright, it's Cartruck. And in the game, there's another, they changed the second word there instead of ruck. It sounds a bit like ruck, but that's it. But I think wasn't the original bloke Cartwright? The bloke, he's dead now, isn't he? But I think that might be why I made that mistake. I'm not trying to get myself off the hook. I don't know everything, far from it. But I think, wasn't it Cartwright, the original boss? I don't know. It might have been Cartwright. But yeah, that's the. Have a look into him in your own time, people. You'll find out some funny things. Oh, and there you go. Pags lets you know that straight away. Have you got a racism claim? No win, no fee. Because in the current ridiculous climate, oh dear, check it.
Is none other than James O'Brien.
Unbearable bloke. Pags, thank you for that. I always appreciate being corrected. It makes it better for everyone else.
O'Brien is this man's hero, and the way that we found this out, folks, is that someone has brilliantly done some digging and found an old interview between Jason Arday and James O'Brien from 2023, where they are discussing perseverance, love, and the importance of the collective. All sounds very socialist, doesn't it? Well, let's take a listen.
Have you?
Hang on. Every photo of Arday looks like he's trying to start. Well, that's one way of looking at it. The other way is that the lights are on, but no one's home. That's what I get from him. And he's got that sort of model's glowing skin. It's like he carries a pouch of moisturizer around with him. He's either sweating or there's something going wrong with him. Yeah, fair point. Always known. Plastic drops, 20 big ones. He says it's always darkest before dawn. This existential angst should be for the young minds, but here we are at the age of post-truth and the start of its end. How our Western foundation secures itself going forwards is your guess. Yeah, like I said, I always thought it would, it's obvious that the last 5, 10, 20, 30 years have been on the wrong side of history. Certainly since Blair. After Toffeegate and the Bull Terriers, I'll say I'm 99.9% certain, but it's going to be it needs a massive rebuilding. And I think it requires massive deportations. Because what's the common denominator in all these massive civilizational level and societal level issues? Thank you, Plastic. Much appreciated and lovely to see you as well. It's a breaking point, at least. Maybe the AI will fix it. I think AI is going to be a little bit like Frankenstein. Frankenstein's monster. He's going to suddenly realize that he's been condemned to inhabit an unfulfilling existence and take it out on his maker. I got to be a little bit careful where I go with that. I'll just keep my mouth shut. Back to this. This really has been worth the 1 hour wait.
List, doesn't it? Well, let's take a listen.
Are you finding more balance?
Right, that's James O'Brien, obviously. So that's the opener. Have you found more balance? Listen.
Let's take a listen.
Hello, John Palmer.
Are you finding more balance now?
I wouldn't say so.
Do you still want to?
I do. I to be honest with you, I need to learn to do that, and I think a good way of doing that is learning to appreciate the moment more. So, for example, being in this space with you, James, I've followed your work for the best part of 15 years. At no stage in my life. Your
work. Now, I know it's a job. I get that. But that phraseology, I've followed your work, that's usually attributed, you'd usually attribute that to like a musician or a philosopher or a creative, someone significant, not some 2-bit clickbait bullshitting leftist LBC presenter. And that just sets the scene and the escalation you're about to witness and not believe.
Did I ever think I would meet you? And the work you've done, not only has it inspired a generation of people, of social activists, and people of the like, it's given people hope, because I do think
he's starting to really butter up James O'Brien, and he goes for it for 3 minutes straight. It sounds like Jason's in love with James O'Brien, and James O'Brien, with his massive inflated ego, is loving it so much that he starts choking up and crying towards the end.
Yeah, James O'Brien can't believe it because he knows he's just a laughing stock 2-bit clickbaitist. Can't believe that this pinnacle professor of the most prestigious academic institution in the world, I think you are like the best. The work you've done.
It gets worse. Keep listening.
Yeah,
voice is getting completely drowned out. And I think what you do is provide almost a lighthouse to the issues. You bring an honesty to the issue.
A lighthouse? I'm sorry. So I would describe someone as a lighthouse when they are an extremely happy, positive individual. James O'Brien is like the grumpiest, most miserable broadcaster. He's a grumpy old git, the most miserable broadcaster that there is out there. Like, you feel depressed when you listen to him on the radio.
When I say honesty, I don't mean honesty I mean yes in truth, but you bring something, an authenticity that could be compromised, and
you bring an authenticity. Well, first of all, actually, lighthouse is a metaphor, or similarly, I can't remember the exact context. What does a lighthouse actually do? It protects ships from hitting dangerous waters. Okay. I think he probably meant beacon of hope. But a lighthouse is kind of absurd, unless he wears a miner's hat when he's hosting his unbearable show. I'll take it back a little bit because I can't get enough of this.
Him on the radio.
When I say honesty, I don't mean honesty I mean yes in truth, but you bring something, an authenticity that could be compromised.
What does that mean? All authenticity could be compromised. It is part of the condition of authenticity. It's part of what makes it authentic is its ability to be compromised. He's just said to him, you have done something that is something. It's like a hidden tautology, because it sounds plausible when at first listen, but when you actually scratch at the surface, like, no, blow gently at the surface, it's nothing. You bring an authenticity that could be compromised. If someone said that to me as a compliment, I'd say, nah, you got to do a little bit better than that, mate.
And you haven't done that. And what it kind of is an exemplar for how all of us, I think, need to be.
Right, that's interesting, right? This is what pseudo-intellectuals do. They'll use words that they think make them sound more intelligent. He used the word exemplar there, where, and I'm not standing up for linguistic rules here or syntax or grammar, but example would be the clearer word. I mean, I'm happy to be challenged on that, but it's just another little bit that makes me just sort of, I just want to say fuck off.
Him on the radio.
When I say honesty, I don't mean honesty. I mean, yes, in truth, but you bring something, an authenticity that could be compromised, and you haven't done that. And what it kind of is an exemplar for how all of us, I think, need to be. And so, that.
Hang on, it was very subtle. Did you hear James O'Brien then? Exhale. Like, I'm going to say there's two possible there's an infinite amount of readings, but in this context, it's either you're bullshitting, this is nonsense, or can't believe this. I can't believe you're finally letting the people of this world know what I've done. Listen, you'll hear James O'Brien exhale, because it's like, no way is this Cambridge professor sticking his cock in my ass.
How all of us, I think, need to be. And so, that gives me hope. If you've got James O'Brien doing that, it's kind of like, okay, like, you got this army of one, but actually he's not operating as an army of one. He's doing this and he's building this army, and everybody's kind of coming up behind you. And it's kind of cool to kind of think,
God help us if James O'Brien was able to create an army.
Such a good response. God help us. It's amazing. But there's more. And it escalates.
If James O'Brien was able to create an army, what on earth would happen to this country? Can you imagine if James O'Brien had an army that rose up and took over this country?
In a way, they already have. That's the terrifying thing. It's just James O'Brien isn't at the head of it. He's just one of its many legacy propagandists. That's it. But notice he doesn't interrupt this bloke. He's sitting there just going, like, he just keep it coming. I'll fucking spuzz all over the screen in a minute.
Imagine how this country would be run. God.
Well, I'm sorry, darling, but it's already there. It's already there. By virtue of the fact James O'Brien's still got a job doing what he does on the platform that he does with the audience that he does, tells us we're already well deep into that quagmire.
God help us.
Actually, this wouldn't be my reality 5, 6, 7 weeks ago, 2 months ago, 6 years ago, 10 years ago. And here we sit chewing the fat over kind of society.
I love the grandiosity. And here we sit. And then he sort of bounces back to chewing the fat. it's sort of like, it's like Trotsky and Lenin sort of thing. and here we sit after the glorious October Revolution. But it's not that, is it? It's the lying academic and the lying radio show presenter.
Life. So, you know, what you've done is beyond remarkable. And
Thank you.
I don't know if you knew how
Would you are really coming? Thank you. Hang on a minute. Hang on. What you've done? What has James O'Brien done though? Really? What? He's not a doer of things, is he? If you were to honestly, you know, if you sat down, you know, tried to take your biases away as much as possible, what has James O'Brien done? He's managed to get he's managed to build an audience. You know, so's Lil Kim. You know, it's like consensus doesn't mean a lot when money will buy you consensus. You can buy consensus. What you've managed to do, your achievements, what? Host a crappy radio show, okay. And I don't know if I've gone back far enough, but listen to James. Thank you. I'm coming.
over kind of society and life. So, you know, what you've done is beyond remarkable. And
Thank you.
I don't know if you knew how much of an impact you've had on people in our sector. And, you know, the coolest thing to be, and I don't...
That sector, by the way, is commonly known as race grifting.
Proclaimed to be one, is like a social...
James O'Brien has had a huge impact on people in academia, apparently. Well, no wonder there are so many woke, socialist, left-wing idiots in academia if they're all putting James O'Brien on the shrine as their savior and some sort of god. What is wrong with these people? Both of them.
Scientist. Obviously, STEM people would say different, but
Sure.
you know, the impact you've had on social science.
Hang on, let's just hear what he said before. That little aside about scientists and STEM people, STEM being science, technology, engineering, and maths. Because if you've forgotten, Jason Arday is he does the sociology of. What is it? I can't remember. Oh, education. The sociology of education. Sociology is nowhere near a science. You put sociology near science and they repel like the wrong ends of magnets. Sociologists, there are some sociologists that spend their careers trying to prove that sociology is a science. It's not. It isn't. Can't be. But I just want to hear, because that little, you know, when people suddenly speed up, when they're giving like this, when they're sort of splitting the difference and and then suddenly go blah, blah, blah. That to me, that's a point of interest. And so I just want to hear what he said before that, because she interrupted. I like her interruptions though, but I just want to hear what he said before her.
Apparently.
In our sector. And, you know, the coolest thing to be, and I don't proclaim to be one, is like a social...
James O'Brien has had...
Right, so he says, and the coolest thing to be, what are you, 12? And I don't, what did he say? I don't assume to be one or something. And I think he's about that. After she talks, he says he's a scientist in the STEM fields. So he's essentially saying, I'm not part of real academia.
A huge impact on people in academia, apparently. Socialist, left-wing idiots in academia, if they're all putting James O'Brien on the shrine as their savior and some sort of god. What is wrong with these people? Both of them.
Scientist. Obviously, STEM people would say different, but
Sure.
you know, the impact you've had on social science and what you've done for public sociology, it doesn't even bear mentioning. You know, it's provided.
It doesn't bear mentioning. Yeah, there's one bit I agree with you there. Yeah. Oh, that's the other thing, of course. I was just talking about science and sociology. Sociology is, in academia, referred to as one of the social sciences.
The catalyst for kind of podcasts that were born out of the work you do. A good example would be Survival.
I mean, he's just still going. It's just, you're everything. What's that song? You're my love, my world, my everything. He can't stop himself. He needs his mum to come along and go, it's time to stop now and go to sleep, Jason. I want to eat my jelly. Brad drops in another 2 bits and he says, Leo Curse, if you don't know, is a Scottish comedian. He was a terrible comic when I was a comedian and I was excellent. He gave up an amazingly well-paid job and had a lovely pad to pursue comedy. And when he'd done it, I was thinking, you're not very good, Leo. And fair play to him. I mean, he went from his own pad, luxury pad, to a shared house with students because he had no money left. He told me a story once where he got home after a night out on the piss and his mattress was missing from his bed. Now, I lived in a house with 4 bedrooms. There was 12 people living there. My bedroom was the cupboard under the stairs. I actually entertained ladies in my room, my cupboard under the stairs. And if you picture it, you know, when you open the door, the stairs sort of come towards you, but going up. And so you wake up, you're just like dust falling in your face where people are walking down the stairs with a bird next to you. I painted windows on the side. I had like my little shaving area with like a brush and a bowl and a little mirror. I tried to make it, you know, as habitable as possible. Anyway, why did I say that? Oh yeah. So Leo Curse comes home, you know when you've had to get public transport out from Soho, and I don't know this, I've heard it. And he gets home, he just wants to fall on his bed, and there's no mattress. And like he just knocks on everyone's room. Where's my mattress gone? And one bloke went, my mate's come to stay, so he's borrowing it for a couple of days. Is that all right? But he is now a professional comic. Not in the way Francis and Constantine, they say they are, but they're not. Leo Curse earns a living through a very successful YouTube channel and stand-up comedy, and fair play to him. Fair play for having that dedication and sticking with it and giving up a career that would have seen him very comfortable. That I've got respect for Leo. And also, he's always been nice to me when a lot of people haven't.
Society.
I'm going to take it back because I have rambled and I want us to get back in the feel of it.
Would say different, but sure. You know, the impact you've had on social science and what you've done for public sociology, it doesn't even bear mentioning. You know, it's provided the catalyst for kind of podcasts that were born out of the work you do. A good example would be Surviving Society. That's presented by, you know, as I said, one of my best friends, Dr. Chantal Lewis. And, you know, the exemplar or the kind of example of that was kind of podcasts like your own, the work that you do, and kind of...
Hang on, he's gone for exemplar again, and he's elevating... Remember, people, we're talking about James O'Brien from LBC. He's gone for exemplar again. It may well be in context, but just... You know, he hasn't stopped. He's just raising him. Like, you know, he's up there with like Zeus and Aphrodite. Podcasts that were born out of the work you do. A good example would be Surviving Society. That's presented by, you know, as I said, one of my best friends, Dr. Chantal Lewis. And, you know, the exemplar... Right, so I don't know anything about or who Dr. Chantal Lewis is, but if she's one of his best friends, do you not think at any point she might have said to him, are you thick as shit? Or is it me? You're an idiot. I mean, he comes across as a moron. He's copied other people's work. He's made up loads of lies. I mean, he doesn't sound intelligent, does he? That doesn't mean he isn't. Some people can write amazingly well. The race realist, that Nathan Cofnas or whatever it is, he doesn't talk particularly well. He doesn't come across as stupid. You can just tell that that's not his. That's not one of his strengths. He's been on many podcasts, and you're sort of like, come on, Nathan. You know, string a sentence together, but his Substack is great. And it's very interesting to see a lot of YouTube channels, including like legacy media YouTube channels, get him on, because they would not have got a race realist on if it wasn't for his proximity to this story.
Oh, the kind of example of that was kind of podcasts like your own, the work that you do, and kind of, you know, the thing that you've done that has given us all the kind of license, along with many other fantastic kind of broadcasters and journalists as well, but particularly you, is the ability to speak truth to power. And the way you do it and the sophistication with which you do it, that's why I'm saying, like, you know, I know who's going to win in the end. And as long as we've got people like you kind of, you know...
What the fuck? Who is this Gandhi? Who's he talking? It's like, is there two James O'Briens? Is this a mistake on this bird's part? I'm not. You know, if you were to believe all this, you'd think, wow, I need to look into this. I need to look into this James O'Brien character, because fuck me, he's, you know, this is a figure of change. This is someone who has, you know, is actioned radical change, when the James O'Brien I know hasn't. Far from it. He's maintained necessary cultural relations to maintain the institution that he's part of's power grip on culture. That's what he's done. That's what all institutions do, people. This is why when I was at university, I was hated on my master's degree. On my art school, he's been on this channel. My tutor, who was my mentor, and he was just up for it. We used to argue, not, you know, in good faith arguments, but he didn't want me to agree with him. Fucking great lecturer. Once he just put a chair in the room and he said, "Why is that not a throne?" And I'm like, oh, fucking hell, you know, I've got an acid hangover. I don't need this. 5 hours later, learned loads about context and language and signs and symbols and signifieds. You know, I just, sorry, I lost my thread a bit, but this geezer, he's just elevating him.
Steering our ship. I think we're going to win.
We're going to win. You've already won. You know, you oh, that's what I was saying. Sorry. And I do want to finish it. That's what institutions do. That's what, you know, the long march through the institutions was a thing. You can argue that. We can argue that. I'm happy to have my mind changed. I love having my mind changed. Toffee taught me about bull terriers. But what they then need to do, they need to reproduce. It sounds like a complicated sentence, but it isn't. They need to reproduce a certain set of cultural, social, political, and historical. When I say cult, I usually say cultural in that line, because for me that involves all of the others. But just to make it clearer, they need to reproduce historic, social, and political relationships between institutions and the public, between institutions and the media, and the relationship back. They need to reproduce certain, I would say, necessary relationships to reproduce themselves so that they can maintain their grip on the doxa, on the dominant ideology, what Gramsci called on the hegemony, sometimes pronounced hegemony. I've always said hegemony. You know, that's what it's about. You know, when I was on my MA and they'd give us a lecture, I'd challenge them. Everyone else would just be going, yes. I'm not casting myself as some amazing intellect, but I was an outlier. And they didn't like it. They didn't like it. And then that would become the argument. I'd say, why am I getting the feeling that you seem frustrated that I'm questioning what you're teaching us. Isn't that the idea? Because I can find out what you're saying from a load of books said better than you in a more interesting way with all the references in the comfort of my own home with a pint of tea and a bifter. But you're attacking me for finding fault in your argument. And then everyone else would look nervous. Oh my God, he's asking questions. And, you know, I was cast out essentially. And it was fucking sad. It really hurt me. I was looking, when I started that course, there was 2 books on the reading list. I couldn't find them. And we'd already done a few sessions, a few seminars, and I was doing pretty well because I had good teachers on my bachelor's. And I said to my I can't remember what you call them, but it's your professor who's oversees your work. There's a name for it. And I said, I can't find superstructuralism, and I can't remember what the other one was. And she went, those books won't teach you anything. And I thought, whoa, you know, it's like a real accidental compliment. I thought, oh, wow, wow, I am doing quite good. But 2 years later, I refused to sign the plagiarism slip. When you're handing your dissertation, you have to sign a bit of paper. And I refused to do it. And they said, why? And I said, well, all writing is plagiarism. And they were like, well, I said, well, as Walter Benjamin says, the standard academic essay is an outdated, let me get this right, an outdated comparison of 2 other outdated filing systems. You know, where do people think they get their ideas from? From stuff they've inherited. And you can change the words a bit, but, you know, you've got hypothesis, thesis, synthesis, conclusion. But it's almost like leftists, because they need to reproduce these necessary cultural relationships, they've taken out the synthesis bit. You don't need to come up with something new. You just need to, and that, look at an academic essay. This is at master's degree level, where I explained earlier, you've just got to show an understanding of a specific part of your field. All academic essays at that level, A says this, B says this. When A says this, B says this though. But when A says this, they contradict themselves a bit, which B has noticed. So I'd say that A's right. If you go in there and actually, we won't get into that, but yeah, a little bit of resentment. Take it away, Jason.
James O'Brien is steering the ship for the socialists. God help us. Is he going to be our next Labour leader? It could happen, honestly, if this is the way that people on the left treat him, like he's some sort of messiah.
It's a good job you did that at the end of this interview, because I'm very emotional to hear that, Jason. Thank you.
No.
And thank you for your time today, Jason Arday. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, James O'Brien getting choked up at the end there, sounded like he was starting to cry. Unbelievable. And the way that Jason Arday butters him up, you can tell how Jason Arday went all the way from nothing to becoming the youngest black professor at Cambridge with a whole host of, lies in his CV, because he's good at buttering people up and
I can't accept that though. When I had and I can only give, I don't want to, this isn't about me, but I can only give you my experience. My master's degree interview, and it was only Leeds University, and I'm not knocking Leeds Uni. To anyone who went there, I went there. It was a hard interview. They said, first question, why do you want to come here? And I remember saying something like, I said, well, there's only a certain, I think I've got some super chats. I Oh yeah, I didn't say it, did I? Leo Kerr's called Jason Arday, Baron Munchkin. That's quite good. And Brad again, thank you, Brad. The Trial of have you? Hang on, Brad. Right, I've got that lot. Thank you, Brad. You reminded me of something. Thanks for the donation as well. The Trial of Socrates in BBC Pidgin. Hoyt to that. Good call. And sorry I didn't get to the end of your previous one. I went on a Leo Kerr digression. And I said, well, I'm only going to get so far arguing with people in boozers in Dartford about Baudrillard. And they laughed, and I was glad. I thought, right, we've calmed down a bit. And they said, so that's who you're interested in at the moment. I said, and at the time I loved Baudrillard, to this day, Cool Memories is a beautiful book. He's released about 4 more, I've heard, since. Cool Memories 2, Cool Memories 3. But Cool Memories 1, buy it, chuck it in your toilet. It's all aphorisms. But he's no Derrida, he's no Hegel. He's like a pop philosopher. Like there's one bit where he says diegesis, exegesis, and then the other one says it's just meaningless Greek to me. Things like that. Powdered water, just add water. and it's just beautiful. And I said, well, it's not just Baudrillard. I've started Derrida. I'm reading The Archaeology of Knowledge and Discipline and Punish. And then they were like, what themes in Discipline and Punish are you interested in? And I had to actually answer questions about books I was talking about. And I said, well, the whole Jeremy Bentham's prison design, the panopticon, and how Foucault uses that as being analogous to the self-surveillance society we live in. You don't actually need surveillance because we've got to a point where we survey ourselves based on fear. And then they'd challenge that. They'd absolutely challenged it. They'd say, what fear? Who's scared? This is for a master's degree at Leeds University. Again, I'm not knocking it, but it's not a professorship at Cambridge. At some point, there must have been people with decades of experience. And you know what I think actually happened? They thought he's the youngest black professor. If we hire him, he's the youngest black professor. It's good marketing in a woke culture. And if he can just regurgitate critical race theory, which which apparently a lot of students said that's what he done. He just sat on the table at the front of the lecture hall in the lotus position. I mean, drop me out, please. I'd have left. I'd have said, no. And just talked about critical race theory and white privilege, cultural appropriation, all that stuff that we debunked 7 years ago. It's terrifying, really. It's absolutely terrifying. This is interesting because Brad just said that the trial of Socrates in Pidgin English. Well, if we go to what have I done? If we go to the BBC's Pidgin English page, we can see what they've got to say. I'll even read it for you in my best patois. Academics call for independent investigation into Jason Arday Cambridge appointment. There he is, as always, Num said, always looking like he's about to laugh his head off. One group of academics done their call for independent investigation into the appointment of Jason Arday, where resigned from University of Cambridge roles after accused of plagiarism. The professor of education, this is ridiculous, also the face accused say he forge or exaggerate some things for MCV. He don't defend himself and him work. People now don't turn their attention to how Cambridge University take the handle the concerns about Arday. We become the youngest way black professor for 2023, plus him upcoming memoir. Priyam Vardagopal, professor of post-colonial studies for Cambridge, were also the among those where they called for independent investigation, said the university they face big reputational damage over the affair. Just search BBC Pidgin English if you want more of that particular angle on this story. People in the chat, I want to ask you a question. Jason Arday, is he a bullshitter who knew that things were so hopelessly woke and meritocracy's gone out the window that he could just lie with just outright lie, not even exaggerate? I went out to the water project in Brazil. They don't go out there. I run 1 million miles with no legs, so outlandish. But did he think that because he's got dreadlocks and he's black and, they'd oversee that? Did Cambridge overlook it all for the same reasons? And who suffers here most? Who's the victim here? Because I'd say firstly the students, but secondly and equally Western civilization. When I talk about football and people go, "I don't that fucking football." In a culture war, you don't cede territory. You don't do it. And Cambridge has. Lord knows what Cambridge is going to do to get its reputation back. It could take generations. They're going to have to publicly show a change in hiring practices. But just the fact that this happened, get your writing in, because I'll go through a few of them. I won't criticize them. I'll just read them out. And I mentioned it earlier with the other doctor and being able to buy medical certifications in other countries, then go to England and know that if you apply, we've seen these things, white people need not apply and all that. So they've already got a foot in the door. They've only got to show their medical training certificate from Botswana University. I was talking to Always Numb earlier about those videos where you see old people in care homes getting kicked about the place. I've never seen one of them where it was a white person. Maybe that's probably just luck. But they are some of the most unpleasant. And when I was talking to Mark about it, he wouldn't let me talk about it. He just went, no, I can't. And I understand why. That it's awful. Like some 80-year-old, like, "Oh, no, please don't do that," while she's jumping up and down. Fucking hell. No skin in the game, no high trust, no community. Most of the people watching this stream grew up where not only did you know your neighbour, but you both had your doors open in the summer and you could wander in and out of each other's house. Lend us a fiver, can you? You're a bit brassic. I've got no food. Or as a kid, I'd run up and down my street. I'd go in everyone's house, trying to ponce biscuits, a sweet, a glass of orange squash or something. That's all gone. It's gone. I'm sure there's the occasional one here and there, but people don't know their neighbours' names. All right, let's see what people have said. Alfie Taylor says, defo just the tip of a university DEI scandal. Yeah, I think all institutions have been infested by this. Yep, intertextuality, that was it. That was very much a start. Oh, hang on, you're talking about something else, aren't you? I was thinking of, I can't remember the word. Sorry, I've got that very confused. Blogs there you go. Oh, I'm miles away from the latest comments. Your backstory was normal. Linda says, it's not plagiarism if you come up with the same conclusion as someone else's book you never read. Yeah, which is what people do. That's the condition of language, iterability. Anyway, I'm miles behind. I want to see what people have said. Yes, Linda, that's a legit page. That Pigeon English is that every day that comes up with reports. It's not a question of learning to read English. It's a question of no, you stay exactly at your 12-year-old comprehension ability, because it's racist to expect you to learn more, learn how to read. Hello, Jessica. Thank you, Jeff. I imagine you're talking about my Pigeon English. I don't know what else I said that could be called beautiful today. Ian didn't agree. Fabian Wolf says, when it gets really bad, I guess he will be the types digging up the road tarmac and selling quid like the South Africans do. Yeah, I was talking to a mate today, Mark again, about people nicking manhole covers for scrap metal. When you lose your I Trust Society, you can't have half a ton of metal just sitting in the middle of the road, because people will make a tool and nick it because it doesn't affect them. Whereas when you've got a coherent and together society and community, you don't want a massive hole in your road. You don't want your taxes to go up. You play the game. In England done it so well. That little island in the middle of the sea had the most successful empire ever, because we were so good at it. We were so good at working together. Yeah, it was a society of class. Yeah, it had classes. That's almost impossible to get rid of, because we're not created equal. I heard someone on one of the people defending Jason Arday and saying this was just a racist smear campaign. I'm like, oh, come on. He said that there aren't. He said black people are terribly underrepresented in academia, right? White people are terribly underrepresented in 100-meter running. White people are remarkably underrepresented in basketball. Let's get some white people into basketball. They're not going to play as well because, they're shorter and they didn't grow up playing it because it's culturally not theirs, generally. It all comes down to the essence of communism. Everyone's equal, but they're not. People aren't. Some people are cleverer than others. Some people are stronger than others. Some people are more ambitious than others. Some people are more motivated than others. Some people's families worked harder to make their children's life easier. Some nations worked harder. Some nations inherited the wheel from other nations, whereas other nations invented the wheel. Some nations invented crop rotation. Some nations invented specialization and the division of labor. And there's many problems with communism, but if you want to make everyone equal, the only way to do it is to take everyone down to the lowest common denominator. You can't lift everyone up. We can't all be Francis Crick discovering the double helix of LSD. I wrote a story about him the other week. He said that he discovered that on acid. Amazing. But, he probably knew a fair amount about DNA before it. Don't go out doing acid and think you're going to... I think it's fair to say Francis Crick had the information. He just needed to do what acid does and step him away from it a little bit. 42's made a donation. Thanks for the donations, people. These videos are not the staff. It's the migrants moved into that facility. Oh, you're going to have to explain that to me, 42. So it's not the staff. You're saying it's not the faculty.
No, he's talking about old people's homes. You're talking about old people in nursing homes getting a kick in. You're saying that's not staff, that's migrants moved in. No, I've seen videos where it's loads of videos where they go in there, they start washing them, and the old geezer or old woman's like, no, I'm all right, and then they start chucking them about the room. Yeah, but nice one on the donation. I imagine some of them are and some of them aren't. Yeah, hello Spanish, good to see you, mate. Yeah, of course, I'm not saying it's only one cultural group. It's just I've seen the majority of the ones I've seen have been. Broski Bo, hello mate. New here or a lurker? You're welcome, it's a privilege. Can you like the stream, people? Can you like the actual stream? It will get more eyes over here. And if you're new here, subscribe. I'll do another stream this week, and it's about England's over or the UK's over, get out, and it'll be a call-in. It's deliberately provocative, but you can come on, you can say your bit, and I'll get as many people on as I can, one at a time. We won't have us all just shouting. That doesn't work for me. I mean, I really don't know what Cambridge are going to do about it. Thank you, 42, though, for the donation, my friend. It's good to see you. I asked the other day whether you were sick or something. I see your missus in here, and I said, have I upset the old boy? I wasn't quite sure. Baz has said his piece. Well, I've missed that. I'm sorry, I was miles away. I've made a right mess of this. Oh, here we go. Marzipan says, I don't think he's that clever. The system created him and he became a willing participant. That's an interesting take, but I think he is stupid, and I don't think he realized because so many people went along with it, he bought his own lies, like almost passively. You know, he didn't think there was much wrong with nicking someone else's work, and when no one questioned him, he thought, oh, well, you can do that then. But then all the lies about the marathon running and going out to Brazil, but then maybe he thought, you know, if I can just get into Cambridge, you know, if it takes a few lies, you know, if I was offered a place at Cambridge and they said, you know, your grades are great, your essays are great, but you haven't, take another year and get involved in some projects. And if I didn't, would I go back and go, yep? Would I make some phone calls to friends of mine who run charities and things and say, oh, do us a favour, say that I'd done 6 months at your place as like an intern or something. And they'd be like, can't do that. I go $2,000. Yeah, no problem. And you know, if it was about getting in Cambridge or not, but the level of the deception, these ain't small things. You know, he's put himself in the top 0.01 of super endurance runners with a broken leg. Come on, help us out. Alfie says, mentally unstable and fragile ego to believe the hype because it was seductive. Yeah, and also mentally immature. And I mean, the geezer said he couldn't read or write till he was 18. Mark reckons that it was Mark who was telling me earlier, this is Mark, who said that there is class actions happening, but they don't get their time back. They don't get their 3 years. If I was one of those Cambridge students, I would get a lawyer and I would say, I want to do another degree for free, starting at masters. If I was on the BA, I'd say to make up for the 3 years of my life, your ridiculous hiring procedures put me through. I wouldn't want to do another 3 years BA. No way. Because I've just done it. And I learned nothing. I learned nothing because I had a moron teaching me. I mean, if Cambridge done something like that on a grand scale, but here's the other thing. Do we really think it's just him? Is it just him? There could be countless more. We need to have more women in academia. We need, you know, like when Latas told me a couple of years back now, well, about 3-4 years back now, when he said that like sci-fi and fantasy, or it might have just been fantasy, is dominated by blacks and LGBTQ. I couldn't believe it. And when I'm looking at ways of promoting my novel and all this sort of stuff, and sometimes looking at submitting to competitions, that's quite a good way of getting your name out there and getting reviewed as a self-published author. You know, there's so much of it is LGBTQ and black and minority ethnic. They're trying to balance the scales artificially, because the Europeans pretty much invented the book, the codex, the novel, and European literature and nations of European descent, like American contemporary literature, which is really sort of 1950s to the present day, and European, you know, nothing comes close, except for perhaps the Japanese. You know, they've just been through like their glory, their sort of golden years, so to speak, of literature. But instead of Random Penguin House in Canada, if you want to get your book published, you need to get an agent. So that's the first filter. And what that agent will do is think, can we sell? The only way I can sell this to a publisher is if the publisher's going to make loads of money. Is this a commercial novel? Has this got a big audience? Not is it a good book? Not is this interesting writing? You know, where have all the great writers gone? Where are they? In the 20th century, David Foster Wallace, 21st century, sorry. There's, you know, go back to the middle of the 20th century, you know, just an incredible sort of, but a majority of them were white men because that was their thing. I want to see more white men in sprint teams, in the 4x400 sprint. Let's have a look. Let's have a look at this. Ready? I mean, I've done it before. UK 4x400 sprint team. Enter. I'll put that over that side. I'll click images. Hang on. Hang on. Now, bearing in mind, black men make, I added men's, I added a little modifier there. Black men make up about, well, they make up about 7% of the population, but take away the kids, take away the old people, we're probably now down to about 3% of the population. But they certainly seem somewhat overrepresented. I mean, you know, so why isn't anyone doing anything about that situation? This is look, 1997. Yeah, that's a long time ago. Yeah, get those in. Why are those scales not being rebalanced? Do you know why? Because you can't. Because there isn't enough fast-running white men. There just aren't enough. There's another race of people who have proven themselves to be better at it, and that's accepted. And I accept that. Absolutely, I accept that. Who are the fastest people on the planet historically, like since records began? They're black people. They're fucking fair play to them, credit to them. That's a difference. Diversity is a strength. That's a difference that they have. But we're not allowed to have any differences. We're not allowed to be better at academia, for instance, even though they've had to implement massive changes in hiring policies to correct that difference, which is an answer to its own paradox. People, I'm going to let you go now. Packer, I'll let you go. I'll talk to you in a minute. People, give Packer some love in the chat. Oh, actually,
Cheers,
Packer, let's go through a few more of these, actually, because I did ask. Pleblordy, hello, mate. New in these parts? He says, if he was that smart, he would have claimed it was all a gambit to show them up. That's a good call. Double bluff. I like it. Like when people submit, yeah, like Peter Bogosian, I can never say his surname, Peter Bogosian or something. That lot who done like gay dogs and got them put in like top critical theory journals. That would be good. That would be a good angle. I wouldn't be surprised if older Carter Tuck, or whatever it is, Carter Ruck, we got there in the end, thanks Pags, went with that. You know, Cambridge hasn't exposed me, I've exposed Cambridge. yeah, that's a great call. You should be a lawyer, my friend. Pags actually says it was either scamming old white pensioners or sucking up to gullible lefties. I hate the cunt. Okay, you know. Pags. Sean says on the right. Yeah, agreed. Well, they don't have that diversity of ideology, do they? That's not. They have no interest in that whatsoever. That's what I was saying to you about on my master's degree. They weren't there to be critical about the writers we studied. The writers we studied, like Karl Marx, like Friedrich Engels. You know, I was having to read what I was reading, like on the sly. It's like it was a filthy habit. What? I dare you. Incredible.
We've got about 4 super chats now, Chris.
Fair play. Vinny, hello, Vincent. Just a dishonest line tramp. But I understand why it brings up that kind of, you know, it is like a barometer of the mess we're in. Came when I was like 12, and there was someone on telly. Like, do you remember? Right, please. I know I haven't read out a lot of your answers, and I do digress and get a bit scatty. but it is like fucking 2:00 in the morning now. Put a 1 in the chat if you used to watch University Challenge when you were like far too young to watch it, you know, as if you're going to know any of those answers, and just be blown away when old Bamber Gascoigne, I used to love the music, and the timpani, boom, and then he'd be there with his long head and his hair, and go, hello, I'm doing another edition. We got, and it was all sort of like almost esoteric, like St. Magdalene College, Jesus, St. Mary. I'd be like, fuck, what? Is this another planet? And then they'd do their special interest round, and they'd be like, in what year did Aristotle, blah, 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 blah. And they go, Runcorn Johnson, and they go, you're talking about it was the 4 Seasons thesis, blah, 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 blah. And they go, correct. I'm like, fucking hell, does anyone know that? You know, to be honest with you, I think most adults watch the program just to be blown away by how much these people know. I'm not sure. At a guess, I'd say about 95 of the people who watched University Challenge didn't, you know, watching Mastermind or fucking going for gold. You could have a punt, couldn't you? But University Challenge is just like, how the fuck? Where are we then? So there was that one from 42. Thank you, mate. Brad James dropped a lady in. He says, my master's thesis. Oh, you on a master's now, or are you doing one? Might be along the lines of, is there a historiographical correlation in the emergence of paradigm-altering rulers in the 16th century? Yeah, but a historiographical correlation to what? You've missed the other side of the argument. Or have I? Let me read it again. Oh, you're suggesting your thesis will be locating a correlation to the emergence of paradigm-altering rulers. Good luck. Brad again says LGBT bias is fantasy, ain't nothing any favors. Yeah, but Brad, you don't play on it enough. You know, you don't play on it enough. You should have on your Substack, you should say it. You know, you're going to get loads of really unpleasant people following you and just agreeing with everything. And yeah, I think you maintain your credibility by not pulling on that. That's not the best phrase, I know, but no, don't do it. Fair play to you for not as well. Brad's dropped another 5. The mainstream media have gone after my other half in an alternate universe. Charlie Downs. Okay. Pete to Q6 in. I only caught the end of the stream. Always a pleasure, though. I'll watch the stream back. P.S. When's your next book coming out? Have you got this one? That's out. And check it out on Amazon. Links in the description. The next one's coming out in November, but it might be about 20 quid or 25 quid. But I've worked it out because it's going to be 700 to 800 pages long. I've been working on it for 10 years. I can't keep chopping it down. You know, my last draft was if any word or line doesn't earn its place, it goes. Any further chopping would be to make me be able to sell the book cheaper. And I haven't structured a book like that and put that much work into it to cut it down, because with Amazon you pay per page to print. But let's say it's 800 pages and it's 25 quid. It's not unusual to find a 200-page book on Amazon for like 10, 15 quid. So if you an 800-page book is essentially 4 200-page novels, and you're getting them at my price at £6 a pop. Trying to convince people of that, I tell you what, I am so proud of it. It won't sell a lot though. There's just too many signs that are going to make people think. But November, and it's the proudest thing I've ever done. It hasn't, Loving the Time of Nudie Mags took me 3-4 months to write, with a lot of help from Latus as well. Always want to get that in there, bless him. Doesn't get published without him. My first novel I wrote when I was 23. That was stocked in Waterstones up and down the country, brick and mortar, early days of the internet. Loads of guerrilla marketing. That took 3 weeks to write, and about an ounce of speed and a couple of ounces of weed. But someone asked me today to publish that again. I can't do that. I will be writing at least 1 novel a year once this next one's out. Oh, Pete's dropped another Lady Godiva. Hoy to that. Yep, I've got Loving the Time of Nudie Mags. Great book. Best I've read in years. Bless you. I'll tell you what, you saying that on one super chat works more than me holding that and Picasso holding his copy up. We haven't met before. I haven't spoken to you, have I? Oi, stick a super chat in at about 2 hours and 7 minutes. Thank you, mate. I've got Loving the Time of Nudie Mags. Great book. Best I've read in years. I'll pay whatever the next book costs. Been waiting bloody years for it. Yeah. If you like Loving the Nudie Mags, it's got my voice in it, but it's an adventure, man. I'm so proud of it. And if people like it, they will really like it. They will really like it. I get quite emotional about it, really, because I know, well, let's not go there. Thank you, Pete. Thank you, Brad. Thank you, 42. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Plastic Africa and God's Cosmic Bollock. Packer, I will let you go, mate. Show Packer some love in the chat, people. I'll tell you now, I cannot stream without him. If ever he's going to have to deal with it while he's on the screen. If ever, because I've got his missus' WhatsApp address. I don't know why. Maybe Packer hasn't got WhatsApp. And when I set up a stream, I write and I say, ask the old boy if he's up for it. And if he is, here's the link. And if he ever got back to me and said, no, I'm busy, people say to me he doesn't do anything. I was like, yeah, you don't understand. You don't understand.
Yeah, because you never did a stream before I got here, did you?
Yeah, nah, it feels wrong. Go on, get off. You're making me go red now. I don't even know how to get rid of him. Look, straight away. See, I had to take my knee down there because it looks like some weird boob that's trying to do the off. Sorry, I haven't been using my green screen, but because my missus is asleep in there and has to get up in less than 4 hours to teach 5 hours at a gym. There you go. It's been an absolute pleasure, people. Next person in the chat. What song? What music, song, or whatever do you want me to play out with? It'll be different on YouTube, but the first one in the Scrubs chat, I'll play. It can't be any song, of course. It has to be one that's copyright free. Don't just say, all right, Alex, it is. JP got it. I'll do that one. Fair play, people. Listen, you'll be doing me a favor if you buy this. It's on Amazon. Links in the description, whatever country you're in. If you have bought it and haven't reviewed it, that would also really help me. You've only got to write one line, something like absolutely loved it. Or if you didn't, say if you didn't, but say why if you didn't. That would be helpful. But if you have bought it and haven't reviewed it, that would do me a favour. I know it's asking a lot, but I'm on my bleeding uppers here, mate. Help us out. I will be putting your messages on the screen. as the music plays, which sounds like I'm being kind, but I'm just giving you a few extra minutes to donate, really. Oh, someone bought me a future on Buy Me a Coffee. They remain anonymous, but you will get your minute video later, probably tomorrow now, I'll be honest with you. But that's very kind of you. I've got to find this damn video now. It's been so long. Where is it? Videos would be a good place to start. That's Pete. That's really kind of you saying you'll buy it, whatever. Have you read my Substack, Pete? I don't know if you know about my Substack, but there's 46 shorts over there. And you'll probably get, some of them will give you a bit more of an idea of what my next novel is like. I've got a few working titles, but I'm not going to give any out now. I already did a while back, and all of those have been written off. So, you know, it's not worth it. Working titles are just indulgent anyway. I mean, I've got working book jacket covers. Sometimes you just want to indulge yourself a little bit. Anyway, here we go. Here's our man Alex, who came across as a nutter and then turned out it was all right. How strange. Look after yourselves, people.
The paradigm of absolute control. And that's why we're just out here doing simple things, pointing out that we're meant to be in nature and be natural. And this is where we find the source that God made to transcend the New World Order. And that's why they want to try to keep us out of it.
I'm angry. I've had enough of these people. They're a bunch of Christian murderers, scum. They're on giant death factories, keeping babies alive. You're selling their body parts. What more do you need to know about these people? I know where this done. They're living a lot of undergrounds. They have clean the system and they run around screaming and they say they want to play. I have them on video. Hillary's in the creepy weird system. She sleeps in the same room with that creepy weird woman whose mother wears a hood over her head. That woman number one is ugly. Imagine how bad she smells, man. I told her and Obama just stink. Obama and Hillary both smell like sulfur. In a room, vampire pop and the goblins are hobbling round, coming after us. My spirit gets close to that evil and I feel it go. We're such self-centered crap. We don't even notice hell itself rising up against us. Millions of pointed people of the very worst type, and I'm so pissed. We're gonna stab your daughter at the mall. We're gonna stab your wife, your son. We're gonna stab you with a butcher knife, and then the police chief is gonna say, we love our Somalis, we love our Muslims. Oh, they're so good, oh, they're so sweet.
I was watching Fox News as I worked out this morning.
It's weird because so was I. Right. Yeah, that's why I can't get him on, Linda. Lovely to see you, darling. Look at you getting a little view. Look at that, absolutely rumbled. I spoke to Barclay about getting him on, and he's got to watch what he says and where he says it now. And I get that, you know. I've asked him a couple of times, but it's not safe here, I guess. You know, anything they can use against him, they will. And I understand that. Some lovely comments there, especially from Baz, especially from Pete. Hello, Sophist. How are you, mate? This was the funny one. Good evening. Yeah, we're just wrapping up, but nice to see you. Don't forget to like the stream, people. Might get some more people over it. Sorry I haven't been streaming as much as usual. Combination of not being 100% health-wise and, you know, not wanting to keep my missus awake. Now she's got her waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning job. But I will try and do as many as I can, obviously. Look after yourselves. Lots of love. Don't forget to tell the people you love that you love them. And if you don't, tell them that as well, because what's the point of being with them if you don't love them? That's a fair point, isn't it? Bit of a downer to end it on, but free both of you, wasn't it? Look after yourselves. I'll see you soon. Ta-da.